Welcome to Project Insight's Power Tutorial Series. We're excited to have you join us for this 15-minute session where we tackle a challenge every project manager faces, team burnout. If your teams are feeling overwhelmed, if they struggle to gauge how much work you can assign to each person, you can stop the guesswork and start optimizing team capacity with Project Insight's capacity planning tools. A few housekeeping items. Everyone will be on mute. You are encouraged to ask questions via the chat. You can drop those anytime during the session. This will be 15 minutes long, and this recording will be accessible via this link after the fact. I'm Mathew Sparks with Project Insight, and I'm joined by our CEO and founder, Steve West. We're excited to show you how our platform can transform the way you manage team workload. Steve, you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, wonderful.
There's a lot to cover here.
There is, yeah, absolutely, and we have our tight window, so we'll get going. This is, a project view within Project Insight. So we're here on a project. We're looking at one of many views and ways to interact with this particular work. This is our task list. So this is ultimately where all of the assignments and kind of work drives from. This is all done via Inline edit, so I can come in here and click to understand what my task name is. I can understand what duration we have, so how many days I have to draft this charter, how much work effort we have planned here, so 10 hours of work time to get that done. The calendar date is really easy to manage. I can come in and select the date if I care to, or we can let it drive off of our intelligent scheduling, right, Steve? Where
That's right.
based on how these tasks are connected to one another, it'll auto-configure what that date is. We have an added column in here for resource type. So this is telling me that I need an operations manager to draft this charter. This, like any of the columns, I can remove or insert at any point by just coming up to the top. But this is going to be really important in an instance like this where I have myself as the resource, the assignee with this task. I can come in and show my capacity, right? So as your project managers, as your team leads are planning out who should get this work, you can kind of peek in to understand what their bandwidth looks like, right?
Yeah, and that can be really helpful if you're, especially for those of you who are working on schedules where you need to know exactly how much time over a given period of time, maybe a month or a couple of weeks, you can really quickly just see the allocation right here and not have to go over to the report.
Yeah, really handy, especially in an instance like this. I can drill in and see what other projects I'm assigned to. You can get really as granular as you want, right? And even see the tasks that I'm assigned to during this time period. Right. This is helpful based on that resource type or based on the type of task being done or a few other options. I can suggest an alternate resource that has that same skill set to accomplish this, but the bandwidth is there, right? So Ryan Allen in this instance, I could reassign if I care to and say, hey, Ryan, you're now the resource we need to get this task done.
Yeah, and that's sorted by the person who most likely matches the person that's already on the task. So in the background, we're using intelligence to figure out who is available, but also who also matches the same attributes, like what kind of role they do. The more attributes that person matches, the more likely that'll show up at the top of that list.
Yeah, and bandwidth, right? That is the other part. Is Ryan
bandwidth
had
too.
The availability as a part of that equation to do that. So
right, but it doesn't just randomly pick somebody. It picks based on the roles that Matt has and I have, and that's where we've been really working hard on the intelligence behind this.
That's a good call out, Steve. It's not just a dart to say, oh, it could be anybody. It is this person who can get this task done for us, right? Mm-hmm. So. One of the pieces that we often have trouble with are new supported customers or even ongoing is the idea that I'm apprehensive to give work effort with this project plan as we go through, right? So the idea that I don't know how long it's actually going to take, so I'm going to put in nothing and then just say, please get this task done within this time window.
Yeah. Well, we see that all the time with new clients, that they'll come in and they'll be apprehensive, but putting something there is better than nothing.
100%. And that's where we can help Project Insight can either by bringing these assignments, these tasks in via a template, right, at the time that a project is created. So we understand what, the expected effort would be. One of the other pieces that I think is extremely powerful is you can set those defaults either globally or even on a project by project setting, right, Steve, which is what we're
That's
looking
right.
at right here. So
Yeah, and in our default has been 1 day equals 8 hours, and that's because like Microsoft Project and other ones do it. But we're actually switching our defaults from 1 day equals 8 hours to 1 day equals 2 hours, because most of the businesses we do with that don't have people just totally dedicated to tasks. So, but this is something you can set for your default for the whole system, and then on a project by project basis, you can set a Matt's doing that right now.
that's right. And that's really powerful, especially when you're using our templates. So that way, if this type of work that we complete does have a variation compared to this other type, right, you can pre-configure those,
Right.
which is really handy because if I go back to this task list, right, and I'm now coming in to say new task, this really creative name for the new work that we're going to do, you can see those defaults here, right? So it's going to default to a 5-day duration. It's going to have 2 hours on that task, automatically. You, of course, can come in and change those. So if I want to say this is going to be 10 days and 80 hours, to Steve's point, this is the only thing I'm going to work on during this time period. You can do that if you care to. That does let us come in here and reassign, this or assign this task to myself, and then I can go ahead and save this. And our little handy pop-up appears here, right, Steve?
Yeah, so it's in the background, it's calculating. This is, again, a global option that you can turn on in your workspace, but it's calculating whether or not that during that 10-day period, does Matt actually have the ability to do it? And you can see it saying, hey, this is going to make him over.
Yep. I have the ability as the PM to say, oh, okay, maybe I'm going to find another resource for this one. And again, that's where that suggests somebody with those same skill sets come into play. Or if you are looking to do the opposite of, this idea of not burning out your team, you can say override, right? And say, yeah, we'll do that and we'll figure it out at a future date. So
yeah, and sometimes you might override and then go talk to the other PMs, so that's why we don't just say you can't do it, because that would be, it's already, nagging you a little bit. So it's, you wouldn't want to prevent you. There is a way to make it not allow it at all, but we don't recommend that solution.
That's right. That's correct. So that's a way, though. Again, I'm on my project plan, right? I'm not, to Steve's earlier point, I'm not looking at a report. I'm not having to go back and forth to understand, what's needed. I can just, as we're looking to get this, work done, I can make the assignments and be confident in their ability to get this work done as well. So. I'm going to go ahead and delete that task. We are going to move into a report at this point. So this is, as it says here, an allocation report, right? I'm looking at my organization, my portfolio over the next little bit of time. That's all dictated here by the filter within our tool. So this is where we can see how long we want, which sort of fields we're looking to capture during this, right? You can see what we have enabled for the time being. This lets me see my overall organization capacity. I can drill this into each department or team themselves as well. So I can understand that, my customer service team looks like they're going to have a few issues here. One of the other call outs that I think is really handy is our integrated PTO function, right, Steve?
Yeah, it definitely shows when someone's out, and that'll take away from the capacity they have when somebody goes in there. And what's really great is the user gets to put their PTO in themselves, so that you're not having to manage this on your own.
That's right. I can come right up here on my user perspective and say, go to my PTO calendar and mark those days and those times off. That will roll down here into this level where you can see both Olivia's got some time off this upcoming week, and so do I, right? Next week, It looks like I'm going to take a little bit of time off. So these assignments are more than just even seeing who's doing, who's burdened or who's overburdened. This still drills in the same way that we were able to on the project plan. I can understand what projects I'm associated with. I can even balance this out right here if we choose to, right, Steve?
Yeah, you can edit it right from this report. You can go in and well, I guess you're going to drag. But
I was
yeah.
just going to drag and drop. Yeah, I can balance out to that point. I can, reassign right here on this. Or to Steve's point, I can come in here and click and change the time associated with these tasks as well, right? So if I need to modify this to be 15 hours, I can do so, and we'll see how that shrinks my overcapacity there with that.
Yeah, and all of this is in real time. There are a lot of other capacity tools out there, but this is like right from your schedule. So if somebody else is managing another project right now, that would show up on this report as well. So that's one of the real benefits of having everything in one place. Now we can see your complete capacity across your organization, whether the project's coming from Project Insight or one of our integrations with DevOps or Jira. All of that would roll up into this one place.
That's a great call out, Steve. If my dev team is using DevOps, right? So they can still have all of those efforts come right in here, and we can understand that on the PM side. So
yeah, and there are some special considerations when you're using the Jira and the DevOps. A lot of those tools, the people don't even put the effort into them, so you'd have to do the overlay in our tool where we can say how busy they are in those other systems. So it can calculate them up if they do happen to put the effort into those tools, or other ways we just overlay it.
Yeah, that's where that dual sync comes into play right there, right? Mm-hmm. So they can put it in, I can put in the effort, it can go back to them, and then they can go from there. So one of the other points here on, what Stephen mentioned, it being in real time, that's also how we can distribute these reports, right? So I can include this in my report menu, so I have quick access to it here. I can distribute this to the appropriate members within the organization. So it can be everybody, it can be specific users, departments, or groups. And then this can also be sent out in regular cadence if you do want it to go out, right? So I want this to go out every Monday so that people understand what the team's bandwidth is going to look like over this next time period. I can choose to have that be a link right here to Project Insight, or even an Excel file if that's what we prefer to do there. So
yeah, and what you're seeing here is across all reports, not just this particular report, but any report in our system. You just showed you the way of sharing them.
That's a good call out, and that it does apply universally. The other piece that's really handy here is I can bring in, we're currently just looking at active projects. So this work that we have committed to, we said, yes, we're going to do this. Via the filter, I can come in here and say, you know what, show me the inactive project. Show me the pieces that we're planning out so that I can understand how those will impact my organization's capacity in the future. When we do so, we can see a few new colors introduced on these bars, right, Steve?
Yep, the gray means it's a planning project is pushing that, green is at the bottom, of course, and now the gray, and then you see a yellow above the red that's showing you how much more over you're going to be. So the gray and the yellow mean planning projects. And, Matt showed all planning projects. You can actually just say, what if I'm doing this and this? So that's it can be all planning projects or just specific ones you want to add or you're contemplating adding into your portfolio. You can see what the impact would be.
You can even do that. We have some customers who do that based on the even status of it, right? So it's a forecasting, or it's 50% certain we're going to get this work, or it's we've got documents signed, waiting for signatures, kind of thing, right? So that's the idea of the project status here and helping drive that as well. So
yeah, that's a great feature there that I we didn't even contemplate that before this call, but being able to say I only want planning projects that are forecasted to come in, and then you'll be able to look at that. That's a really great way to do it.
Yeah, right here. So in order to do that, to Steve's point, I can either come in here and select which ones we want, or I can go through the statuses and say, show me the forecasting, show me these other pieces there.
Right.
So. That's it for time, Steve. We've gone, though, from the idea that I can see within Project Insight what the allocation looks like on the task level, show how that plans through to the project, and then show how that impacts my team throughout our portfolio.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, put the effort into your work breakdown structure. It's just, even if they're just guesses as to best guesses, then the system will automatically calculate out your capacity for you. And then we didn't really get into it too much today, but there is also a top-down component in the project where you can say how much you think someone's going to be busy in a project that you don't have the WBS for yet. So go spend some time looking at those things. This is one way that you can make sure you're not giving your team way too much to do, which we all, want to be optimistic, but at the same time, it's good to see like what are we really giving them, and can we do it?
Spot on. The other part to that is you can even use the tool to fine tune where you should be, right? We had planned 10 hours, we spent 15. Now I can go through the template and change it for future project work that is utilizing that. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many options on the capacity reports that, if you go and explore them, and anyone out there who has any questions, don't hesitate to contact support and we'll give you some more clarity on anything you're trying to accomplish.
That's right. Thank you so much for your time today.
You too. Thanks.